Well, my most memorable carrier mission was flying Night 1 in Desert Storm, and I was the flight lead of a 84 plane strike that included all the airplanes off of Saratoga, and I was on USS John F. Kennedy, and also some Air Force Wild Weasels. And our mission was to go in and take down the air defenses in Baghdad when after the F-117's airplanes went in. So we took off, and it was 700 miles up to Baghdad. We had practiced this a few times, but it was pretty exciting because the A-7 didn't have any air-to-air radar. We're flying in the middle of the night. It was 2 o'clock in the morning, and you had to rendezvous on these KC-135 tankers. We were putting 6 airplanes per tanker. There were 4 tankers, so there's 24 airplanes all trying to rendezvous in the middle of the night in this one piece of sky. You'd get into the tanker, and we called the tanker the Iron Maiden because it had a short 15-foot hose on it and a lead basket that weighed about 75 pounds. And if you did it wrong, you got slapped with the hose. So you had to plug it about 4 or 5 times as we went up the refueling route before we got dropped off, so that everybody in the flight would have a full tank of gas. And so no small feat just to do that, and that was before you even got into combat. And then we came off the tankers and went up to the AWACS frequency, and the F-117s were just coming out of Baghdad. We couldn't cross the line until they dropped their weapons. And all you saw on your radar scopes was all of these radar sites come up. So we proceeded up into country. We kind of did a spoke around Baghdad where there would be 3 airplanes on each one of these spokes. We got up there, we checked in with the AWACS, and you heard the call that there were MiGs airborne at a airfield called Al-Taqaddum, which is just north of Baghdad. And it was actually the target of the A6s who were part of this strike. As we went up, the lead F-18 got a lock on what was a MiG-25 Foxbat. He held lock on him, but he had to break it off as this Foxbat got out of range. And the Foxbat actually came around and shot down Scott Spiker at that time. Scott was a good friend of mine because we had been in Squadron VA-105 previously. I didn't actually see the shoot down. There was a glow up in the sky to the north of me, which I'm assuming was probably him getting shot. But what I do know is that MiG then continued south and right at me. And I had a full load of chaff, which is reflective, kind of a tinfoil you put out there that decoys airplanes. And I was pumping that stuff out as fast as I could. And the A-7 at the time had gotten this new box called the Airborne Self-Protect Jammer. And I believe that thing saved my life, because all I could see was that thing going repeat, 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 blinking away. And then over the top of me, it went this Foxbat in full afterburner. And I thought it was one of our Tomcats that had just gotten screwed up and was in the wrong piece of sky. It wasn't. Anyway, proceeded in, and it was a real milk bowl kind of night. Very cloudy, you couldn't see much. And then all of a sudden, about 50 miles from Baghdad, it got clear. And all you saw was this dome over the top of Baghdad, which was their anti-air aircraft weapons all being fired into the sky, and then popping out of the top of it were missiles. It got your heartbeat going pretty good. So I went in, and the first thing that we were told, because we were carrying 3 HARM missiles, which are anti-radiation missiles. They seek the radars of enemy sites. And they said, don't look when you fire these things at night, because they're going to be pretty bright. Well, of course, being a good naval aviator, I fired the first one off looking at it and was blind for about 15 seconds because it was so bright. So my first one went off, and it went up real high, and it was fired at a pre-brief site that we knew. And then the second one, I I was a little smarter and closed my eyes on that one and fired that off. Same thing, went up high and went after one of the missile sites. But the third one was why the A7s were actually there, was because we had a mode called target of opportunity that none of the other airplanes had, which allowed you to pick out a target that hadn't been hit. And so I went to target of opportunity mode and looked at my radar scope, and there was a strange symbol on there that I had never seen before. It was a 6 that was blinking back and forth and whatever. And I said, what the heck is that? And I looked up and there's a missile just kind of coming right at me. And it's like, now I know what that is. And I locked on, shot my last harm, and it, as I talked about the first two going straight up, this one went straight down at the radar site that I was over. And I pulled as hard as I could and got out of dodge. The missile missed me, and hopefully the radar site got blown up. So we ended up exiting and getting out of there. One of the funnier parts of this whole thing was we had said to all of the people in the strike group, if you don't feel threatened, then come on out at medium altitude. We were up at about 25,000 feet. But if you feel threatened, the Iraqis aren't going to chase you down low, so go down to 1,000 feet or whatever. And I exited high because it seemed like things were calmed out, but my wingman in a very high-pitched voice was, "I'm exiting low." And he was getting out of there. Well, the exiting low part worked great until he got down to the border where I was up high. I couldn't see him, but I kind of knew where he was, and I looked down and he got near the border, and every little AAA gun and small range missiles were firing at him as he came out, and added to the pucker factor. But we all got back. We got back to the tanker with low on gas, so we all had to plug 3 or 4 times again going back to the aircraft carrier, and thinking that this 5.5-hour flight was about over. Now you had to face the night landing on the aircraft carrier, and fortunately we all got aboard without any issues there. And one of my lieutenant commanders and I parked on the flight deck right next to each other. We both climbed out of the airplane, looked at each other, went, "Holy whatever," and kind of knelt down and kissed the flight deck. It was probably the mission that you most remember for the rest of your life.